This is a hot take, okay? And don't shoot the messenger, but if you're learning Korean, you're a koreaboo. If you're learning Korean, you're a koreaboo. 그런 생각이 너무 괴로운 것 같아요. 저는 처음부터 언어 배우는 걸 좋아했거든요. 그래서 처음에 프랑스어 배우고 있었어요. 뭐라고 할까? 그래서 불어 배우고 있었어요. 그리고 사람들한테 프랑스어 배우고 있다고 하면 그 반응이 진짜 예상은 할 수 있었어요. 그 반응이 Oh, that's really cool. Have you been to Quebec? Have you been to France? Are you a French-speaking descent? 저도 이제 스페인어 공부하는 언니도 있고 독일 공부하는 오빠도 있어요. Whenever my siblings would tell people, oh, I'm learning German or I'm learning Spanish, 그 반응도 진짜 예상할 수 있어요. That's really cool. Have you been to South America? It's generally something that people will say, oh, that's really cool. 근데 사람들한테 저 한국어 공부하고 있다고 하면 그 반응이 정말 different라고 할까요? A lot of people will go, oh. A lot of people will also stare at me as if they've sort of just pieced together the type of person that I am. People have come to me afterwards and admitted to me that they had assumed one of three things, or actually some people have done all three. Either assume that I'm obsessed with Koreans, assume that I've wanted to be Korean, or a really popular one, which is assuming that I fetishize Korean men. Now, I want to let it be known that I'm someone who loves my culture, my people, and if God gave me another chance at life, I would choose to be Black and I would choose to be Nigerian in every single lifetime. So why is it that as soon as I tell people that I'm just learning a language, they draw these baseless conclusions? Why is it something that only happens with Korean? I'm someone who has been learning Korean, or has been surrounded, I guess we could say, by Korean media for almost half a decade. I have friends who are Korean, born in Korea, and also friends that are born in Canada in Korean. And I just say that to show you my perspective and how I've sort of been piecing together what we can really call this phenomenon. Now, what sprouted this video or gave me the idea to talk about this is actually something that a friend of mine had posted. So I had a friend post a video about meeting Koreans for the first time because unlike me, who lives in a place where there's a lot of Koreans I'm able to practice my language learning with, because don't get it mistaken, practicing your language or target language in public is necessary, okay? And not just on Hello Talk and not just on Hi Local, in public is necessary. It's necessary to habituate your language speaking, to be in situations where you might not be able to predict what's going to be said, and to just get out of your comfort zone when it comes to language learning. Sorry, a little tangent there. But unlike me, who lives in a place where I'm able to practice, my friend lives in a place that's a lot of people who are non-Korean. So when it comes to practicing his language learning, he wasn't able to get sort of the same real-life experience that I was able to get. Now, the caption itself read, meeting Koreans for the first time. It's easy to, if you had just looked at that, be taken to a different type of thing, but it was very clear with the context of the video, and anyone able to deduce context clues would be able to see that he had went up speaking Korean, because the whole point was that it was his first time meeting Koreans to practice speaking in public. So he went up and he asked, oh, are you guys Korean, after overhearing? And then as soon as they said yes, he was like, oh, it's my first time like meeting Koreans in this area. And he walked away until the clerk called him back and was like, oh, like, how are you so good at Korean? And just started a conversation from that, which is, I think, what language learning is about. It's not like he went up and he said, this is my first time meeting Koreans. And he was like, wait, are you guys Korean in English? And he was like, wow, that's so interesting. I've never seen a Korean before. In a way that's just looking at it almost as if Koreans are specimens. Soon enough, his TikTok comment section became filled with people hating on it. One person said he was weird, others were saying that he was acting like Koreans are these rare creatures, and then one commenter even went as far as to say that my friend should not have been practicing with Koreans in public and he should have found someone online to talk to, which I feel like we've just lost the plot completely. I honestly want everyone watching this to ask yourself, would it be the same reaction if someone said, oh, I'm meeting a Latino for the first time so I can practice my Spanish, and started speaking Spanish with them? Would the reaction be the same if it was someone saying, oh, my first time meeting a Bosnian, and they're speaking Bosnian or Serbian to them? Would the reaction be the same if they said, my first time meeting a French person and they were speaking French? because I genuinely don't think it would be.
I had a few things that I wanted to add in posts that I was thinking about, because something that I noticed is that a lot of these people who have this preconceived notion that people who learn Korean are fetishists, as soon as you start like speaking Korean and you interact with actual Koreans in front of them, it's sort of like after you get the approval of actual Koreans, then they feel like, okay, now I can put the weapons down. But it's like the weapons didn't need to be up in the first place. And then I think something that I also noticed is that a lot of Koreans, like you call them gyopos, which means like overseas Koreans, a lot of them have, for lack of a better word, ego. Because a lot of them will also feel this way towards people who learn Korean, in that they assume that everyone who's learning the language is a fetishist. And I think that it's because koreaboos are real. Like, there are people who genuinely, like, if God was like, okay, you could be born again, they'd be like, oh, I want to be Korean. Like, I've heard people actually say that. And so it is real. But because it's real, a lot of the overseas Koreans I see feel a sort of ego because they think that other people perceive them as better than them, while simultaneously they look down on people who are actually learning Korean and actually interacting with the culture, perhaps because they're able to interact with it in a way that's more in-depth and interactive, if that makes sense, because they're overseas. I am not 100% sure, but I and a lot of other friends who are learning Korean have seen that a lot of these overseas Koreans will sort of look down on them and think that wanting to practice your language learning means that you want to like date them or be with them, when that's just simply not the case. I promise it isn't.
I think there is a huge issue with people feeling the need to come to the defense of Koreans, making it so that people are not able to interact with Korean culture unless it's in a way that these people approve of. I call it like a special status or a unique standing, because people rush to give Koreans a special status, and I think it extends to many different aspects. For example, it's special status which allows them to act in bigoted or racist ways and no one says anything because it's Korea. Why would they know about racism? The special status also extends to areas like this, where people are trying so hard to make it so that no one can interact with Korean culture. I genuinely believe that this is a form of virtue signaling, because these people want to show to Koreans specifically, but to everyone, that they're not like the people who fetishize Koreans, who put Koreans on a pedestal, and who are obsessed with K-pop. Meanwhile, the only thing that they can say Korean is oppa and 사랑해. I think they genuinely just desperately want to prove themselves and show that they are above the cut. But the irony is that by desperately trying to prove themselves above the cut, they fall way below the people that they're actually trying to separate themselves from. I think that's ironic, because the same coddling and praising and putting Koreans like above other people of color becomes the same fetishization that people are desperately trying to prevent.
Even if it's done with good intentions, this attempt to protect them sort of places them as a monolith, and it's still a type of objectification where they're not able to acknowledge that Koreans are a group of people able to defend themselves is necessary. It becomes more about showing their moral superiority than it is actually protecting Korean people. Whether it be fetishizing Koreans by romanticizing them, or putting them on a pedestal and trying to protect them and seeing them as a monolith, you are still performing a type of, in my opinion, fetishization. So in a sense, rather than it being a romantic fetish, it becomes more of a moral one.
It's not okay for anyone to interact with Koreans without anyone rushing to their defense. Like, one, they can't defend themselves if need be, and two, like there's anything to defend them from. My friend referred to it as white knighting, and I think that that description couldn't have been any better, because in the same way a lot of white people will try to act like white saviors for Black people and other people of color, a lot of these people will try and act like white knights for Koreans and show them that like, I'll save you and I'm different. But I genuinely wonder where this comes from. Why is it that they feel like Koreans deserve to or should be more coddled than other people of color and other groups of people that are equally as fetishized? Why is it that anyone who wants to learn the language wants to be them? Korean is a language like any other language anyone could learn. You only see this outrage from people who aren't Korean, and so it does get to a point, because out of all my years of learning Korean, I also have never met a Korean who's ever looked at me the same way that non-Koreans will when you tell them that you're learning their language. If they think that they're defending them, it sort of makes you wonder to what end they think they're defending them, and what is it that they think they know that Koreans don't know that they need to protect them from. It is genuinely hard enough to learn a language effectively without having people trying to paint you as something you're not, when these same people couldn't even put half the effort that you've put in to learn a language and want to sit back and act like you're fetishizing a whole culture for just wanting to speak the language. I'm getting heated because I actually just don't get it. I genuinely also think that this only creates a further cultural divide, and it dissuades cultural exchange because people are hesitant to learn this by fear of being labeled something else. Now, I can't lie, I don't have the answers to where this comes from. I'm not really a video essayist. I just wanted to get this really off my chest as a language learner. I ask you to reframe the way that you're approaching Korean as a language and the language learners. Thank you for watching. It goes to a point, like,